Thank you everybody for coming. I want to give a special thank you to our grandmother. May she have a long life. She sponsored today's shiur. Refuah Shlema herself.
Sonia Mazal
Bat Marussia. This week, we know upcoming is the holiday of Chanukah. If you notice, every single year, Parashat Miketz always falls out on Chanukah. Every year. So, Miketz is talking about the continuation of the selling of Yoseph, Mechirat Yoseph. The brothers sold him to Mitzrayim as a slave. He's there, he got tested by Potiphar, they threw him into the dungeon, and he's right now in a low state. Parashat Miketz. So what is the correlation between our Parsha and Chanukah that it always falls out in the same week? So Zera Shimshon, tonight we're going to see what's the connection. So we first bring down the sefer called Megale Amukot. Megale Amukot literally means the revealer of deep secrets. That's what the sefer is called. He's going to say a lot of different gematrias, interesting stuff. I personally never heard it before. Let's see, yeah? So it says, Az bimei Avan nitchadesh avo mechirat Yosef. He says, during the days of the Greeks, the sin of Yosef was reawakened. The Jews, in that time, they repeated the sin. We're going to see what it was. They repeated the sin of Yosef. And because of that, they were brought onto them, the Greeks. And who was the king, Melech Yavan? Who was the king of the Greeks? What was his name?
Titus?
No, Antiochus. The king of the Greeks, his name was Antiochus. If you look at the gematria of Antiochus, it comes out to be 156. The gematria of Yosef is 156. So Hashem is telling the Jews, why is the king of Yavan and Melech Yavan, the word Melech Yavan is also 156. So Hashem is telling the Jews, why is the king of the Greeks, whose name is Antiochus, coming onto you? Because of Yosef, the sin of Yosef you guys are doing. Same exact gematria, 156. And that's why the Greeks, the Midrash says, that the Greeks forced all the Jews on the horn of your ox. They said, you got it right. We have no chelek be'elokei Yisrael. Every Jew had to go to their ox on the horn and grave. We have no portion in the God of Israel. What does that have to do with anything? Why the horn of an ox? So in the Sefer Dvarim, it says that Yosef was called an ox. So they were trying to hint out to the Jews, why are we overpowering you right now? Because you failed, because you did the sin of Yosef. And Yosef was called an ox. Azaya bishnat reshut gimel lebinyan beit hasheni. When did the Greeks attack? Which year? They attacked in year number 213. 213 years after the Jews built the second Beit HaMikdash, the Greeks attacked them. And where do we see this in the Torah? In the Torah we see this hinted. Lavan chased Yaakov. Yaakov ran away from Haran. He didn't want to be in Haran anymore. He wanted to go back home. He wanted to go back to Israel. And while he was going back, he sneaked away from Lavan and he ran away. Lavan quickly got up to him. He has 12 kids, he has 4 wives, he has a lot of cattle, so he's going pretty slow. Lavan quickly chases to him, and he says, why are you leaving? How could you do this to me? And they basically get into an argument. Then at that place, they make a peace treaty. They say, you go your way, you go back to Israel, I go back to Haran, we don't cross paths. And they made a truce. Yaakov named the truce Gal Ed, which means the stone witness. Lavan's like, no, I don't want to call it Galed. I want to call it Yegar Sahaduta. What is Yegar Sahaduta? So he says, this truce is only going to last for Yegar amount of years. What's Yegar? Yegar is gematria 213. He said, when your kids are going to come back out of exile, or you're right now Yaakov Avinu, you're going back into Israel after you were put into exile. So too, your kids are going to one day come back from exile, go back to Israel, and they're going to also only going to have peace for 213 years. After 213 years, the Greeks are going to attack.
Amen.
So now we know that the Greeks attacked in year number 213. Why did they attack? Because the Jews sinned. They repeated the sin of Yosef. The Zohar brings down that why were the Jews put into Mitzrayim?
What was the sin?
What was the sin? We're going to get into that. The Zohar is going to explain right now. So the Zohar says, why were the Jews put into Mitzrayim? They were put into Mitzrayim because the Shvatim sold Yosef. Because of Mechirat Yosef, they sold him to slavery. We got put into slavery in Mitzrayim. In Egypt, we were put into Mitzrayim. In Egypt, we were put into slavery. So he says, how do we come out of the slavery? Hashem gave us a gift. The gift is called Shabbat. The Zohar explains that apparently Yosef is Keneged Shabbat. And when we keep the Shabbat properly, we're atoning the sin of Mechirat Yosef. We're atoning the sin of selling Yosef. And that's what we had the zechut to leave Mitzrayim. We had the zechut to leave Mitzrayim because of Shabbat. That's why we were given Shabbat in Mitzrayim. So when the Jews left, they were redeemed, they were brought to Israel. But then they started not keeping Shabbat properly. They kept Shabbat, quote unquote. But they weren't really doing all the halachot properly. And it says, Nigzar lehem galut Bavel. What happened to them? Immediately the Babylonians came. Hashem said, Bavel, it's your turn now. Put the Jews into exile. And the Jews were put into exile for how long?
7 years.
70 years. That was the time of the, pretty sure, the Purim story. So the Jews were put into Bavel for 70 years. 70 years they're in exile. Hashem redeems them. He brings them back to Israel. They return back to Eretz Yisrael. And they rebuild the Beit HaMikdash. But not so soon. They go and they do a sin. Now you ask, what was the sin? The sin of Mechirat Yosef was Sinat Chinam. During the second Beit HaMikdash, they had baseless hatred. They saw one guy, for no reason they started making fun of the guy. They don't like the guy. They don't like the way the guy looks. And they just had always arguments and fights. They had no shalom between each other. And because of that, Hashem said, I will bring upon you the Greeks. Now we understand why the Greeks came in the 213th year. Because how do you say arguments, fights in Hebrew?
Machloket.
So one word is machloket. Another way to say it is a riv. Riv is when two people are arguing. When they have hatred towards each other and they're arguing. So, ki riv hu meriva. Riv means to argue. The gematria of riv
13.
is 212. Reish is 200, Yud is 10, Bet is 2. So the gematria of argument, Sinat Chinam, is 212. So Hashem said, I'm going to bring upon you the Greeks at the year 213. Showing you what's the reason you're getting them in 213? Because you had 212. Because you went through 212, because you went through Sinat Chinam, because you went through fights with Jews, and you guys did not have brotherly love, you guys were always hating each other, that's why I'm going to put the Greeks onto you. And the same thing happened with the Shvatim. Bunch of brothers. 10 brothers gang up on the younger one, and they sell him as a slave. Sinat Chinam, baseless hatred. And because of that, we repeated the sin that the Shvatim did of Mechirat Yosef, and we were put into exile. This time we didn't leave Israel, but the Greeks oppressed us inside our country. Inside Eretz Yisrael. Now the Greeks know that they are ruling over us because we did the sin of Mechirat Yosef. So they said, there's 3 things that can atone for the sin for the sale of Yosef. So the first thing we spoke about, Shabbat. Shabbat, the Zohar said, is Keneged Yosef. So Shabbat has the power to atone for that sin. So what was the first decree that they did? Jews, no more Shabbat. Number 2, the second decree was Rosh Chodesh. Ever wonder why are they decreeing against Rosh Chodesh? Rosh Chodesh, Rosh Chodesh. Well, who do care about Rosh Chodesh? Why was that one of the big decrees?
Holidays.
Exactly. So one, the simple pshat is just the holidays because they're not going to know when Pesach is, we're not going to know when Shavuot, because everything is based on the moon. But we explain, Rosh Chodesh is the way we atone for the sin of Yosef. Which korban do we bring on Rosh Chodesh? We bring a korban of a goat. Last week's parsha, when they sold Yosef, what did they right away do? They went, they shechted a goat, they took its blood, they dipped the ketonat pasim, Yosef's garment, they went up to the father. Whose cloak is this? Do you remember whose cloak this is? And he said, that's Yosef's. They said, oh, we think a wild animal ate it. And they covered their whole sin with a goat. That was part of their plan. So he said, Shem said, in order to atone for the sin of Yosef, I'm going to give you a korban on Rosh Chodesh, the korban of a goat. How many times does Rosh Chodesh happen during the year?
12.
12 times. Keneged, 12 Shvatim. Each Shevet has its own month to do its atonement. Reuven is the first month, Shimon is the second month, Levi is the third month. And we go through these 12 months to atone for each Shevet. And you're going to tell me, there's a leap year. Last year was a leap year. It's 13 months. So we know sometimes Shvatim are 13 because Yosef gets substituted for Menashe and Ephraim. So we see that the second decree that the Greeks put onto the Jews is to take away Rosh Chodesh. That's it, Rosh Chodesh out. We don't want you to atone for the sin of Yosef. We want to keep the rule over you. And number 3, third decree was Brit Milah. They said no more Brit. No more Brit Milah. Why? Yosef is Keneged the 6th Tefillah, which is the Brit, which is Yesod. Yosef, his attribute is Brit Milah. He made the whole entire Egypt, the whole entire Mitzrayim. He said every single Mitzri has to get a Brit Milah. At that time, every Egyptian had a Brit Milah.
To get food.
He made everyone circumcised. The whole world, I think, yeah. He made everybody get circumcised. So we see that the 3 things that were presented Yosef, that were able to atone for the sin, to get rid of the Greek exile, the Greeks said, no. All these 3 mitzvot, you're not allowed to do. And of these mitzvot, we know there's, out of 613 mitzvot, there's 3 mitzvot that are called otiyot. They're called signs. They're called the signs of a Jew. It's what makes a Jew a Jew. If you don't have these 3 signs, you're not a Jew. What are they? Shabbat, Brit Milah, and Tefillin. The 3 signs of the Jew. It's what shows a Jew that he's a Jew. Now, on a weekday, when we don't have Shabbat, what are the 2 signs? Tefillin and Brit, because we know there's a rule. In court, how many witnesses do you need? 2. So Hashem says, so too you guys. In order to show that you're Jewish, you only need 2 witnesses. So on Shabbat, what do you wear? You put on tefillin. You have a Brit Milah always. On Shabbat, you have Shabbat and the Brit. So you always have 2 signs. You always have 2 witnesses. But the Greeks came and they said, no more Shabbat, no more Brit Milah. We're taking away 2 out of the 3 signs. What are you left with? Tefillin. That's it. 1 witness. Is it good in court?
No.
1 witness is not good in court. So they said, we want you guys, you Jews, not to have any more sign that you're connected to Hashem. You have no way to show that you're part of Hashem. And that's why they made them write on the horn of the ox, we have no chelek, we have no portion in Elokei Yisrael. We have no portion in the God of Israel. We have nothing to show we're Jewish. You took away our Brit and you took away our Shabbat. And that was the whole goal of the Greeks. They wanted to rule over the Jews and make it that they can never rebuild their Yiddishkeit, rebuild their Judaism. But at the end of the day, what did the Jews do? They did teshuvah for the sinat chinam. The sin was, they had based this hatred, and they fixed that. And because of that, they were saved. Hashem made a miracle, they won the war. They came to the Beit HaMikdash, and we all know, hidliku nerot v'na'aseh nes b'shemen. They lit the candles, and Hashem made a miracle with the oil. What happened to the oil?
Lasted.
8 days, it lasted. And what is that called? We have a famous line. It's called mitoch afela ora. From the darkness came about the light. Hashem brought light from amidst the darkness. She'ora b'gematria riv. Ora is gematria 212. So Hashem is symbolizing, with this special miracle of the light, that you fixed the sinat chinam, you fixed the riv, the fights amongst you guys. The 212, you fixed it, and I'm giving you Ora, a special light, which is 212 keneged, the sinat chinam keneged the riv. You guys fixed the problem that you did, the fight, the sinat chinam. But the question is, why is it mitoch afela ora? Why does it say from within the darkness came light? If you go to a dark room and you turn on the lights, what's that called? It was dark, and afterwards it's light. So why does it say that the light came from within the darkness? What's that trying to hint to? So during the era of the Greeks, the Yevanim forced the Jews to translate the whole entire Torah to Greek. And it says during that time, there was darkness in the world for 3 days. They had to fast those 3 days. It was very bad. They took the Holy Torah and they translated it to Greek. And now we can understand what it means from within the darkness. Because the choshech came when the Torah was translated. When the Torah is translated, darkness came into the world. When the Greeks came. Choshech.
Why does it matter if they translated it?
Because I heard this before, I don't know, but it's like you take your wife and you give it to someone else. It was your wife. You're giving it to someone else now. So it's your Torah. It's our holy Torah, and we're giving it, it's being translated to the Greeks, the same type. That I can't tell you for sure. That I'm pretty sure, I heard. So we say choshech, the darkness came when that happened. The same gematria of choshech, 328, is shachach, forgetfulness in Hebrew. Why did this darkness come? Because we were forgetting our connection to Torah. We were forgetting, we were shachach et kol Torah. We didn't follow the Torah correctly. And because of that, Hashem brought darkness. But later, when Chanukah came, Hashem reignited that darkness, and He took the darkness and He lowered it. And He made it afela. Choshech is deep darkness. Right? The Mitzrayim were in choshech. They couldn't even move. Choshech is when you're in extreme darkness. Afela is a lesser version of darkness. So if you do the gematria, afela is 116. So if you take choshech, the difference between choshech and afela, between the two types of darknesses, 328 minus 116, you get 212. You get ora. Within the darkness, hidden over there, was light. And the light was hidden within the darkness. That's why it says, from within the darkness came the light. And the Zera Shimshon says there's a certain klipa, there's an evil force, that its job in life, its job is to abolish Torah from Judaism, from the Jews. Get rid of the Torah. Make people not want to learn Torah, get rid of their lives Torah. And that's its goal. What's it called? What is this klipa, this evil force, what's it called? It's called a Riv. Riv is gematria, 212. So the ora, the light that was hidden within the darkness, came and fought against this evil klipa, and it said, we will remember the Torah, we will not abolish it, we won't have the choshech, the forgetfulness, the 328, and rather we're going to bring back the Torah and destroy the klipa of Riv. That's what it meant. The light was hidden within the darkness. And the Midrash Tanchuma says that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, it quotes Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says three very interesting phrases. He says, Mitoch tzara revacha. From within suffering will come relief, goodness. Mitoch afela ora. From the darkness will come light. And number three, mitoch nibulan shel tzadikim romemutan. From the disgrace of the righteous people, of the tzadikim, will come their loftiness. So what do these three things mean? So we know, the Chachamim explain, that a person's success is hidden behind his suffering. When a person goes through suffering and tests, that's what brings him higher and higher. Where do we see this from? Famous example, Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu had 10 famous tests. The 10 Nisniyonot of Avraham. They weren't easy. He had to almost kill his kid. These are sufferings he went through. But if he never went through these sufferings, he would never become the tzaddik. Avraham Avinu, the father of the Jewish nation, he would never become that. Only through the suffering could a person achieve success. When a person passes his tests and says, I'm going to go through the pain, and he still follows Hashem, that's how he reaches the high levels. And it says, Zehu mitoch tzara revacha. So we can understand that from the suffering will come the relief. If you take Hashem's name, Hashem has many names. If you take the name that represents strict judgment, which name is this?
Elokim.
Elokim. Elokim, if you take the word Elokim and you split it up, each letter you spell it out fully. Aleph, Lamed, and then Hey, and then Yud. You spell out each letter fully, and then take all those letters and you make the gematria of it, you get 295. So Elokim is gematria 295, strict judgment. The word tzara, which means suffering, pain, also 295. Tzad is 90, Resh is 200, Hey is 5. So 295 equals suffering, and also equals Hashem's name Elokim, which is strict judgment. And it's saying, Anu kol kavantenu hilafoch oto rachamim. When we're davening to Hashem, our goal is to take the suffering, right? We're davening to Hashem when we're in suffering. We say, Hashem, take our suffering and make it into relief, make it into goodness. And that's why we say every day in Shemona Esrei, Ritzeh Hashem Elokeinu. be favorable to us, Hashem. And on Shabbat we say, Ritzeh v'chalitzenu. Be favorable to us and give us rest. Where does the word Ritzeh, favor, come from? The word Sarah. If you take the word Sarah and you flip around the letters, you're going to get favor. What's this trying to show us? Shemin Sarah yitapech li'ritzeh. From within our suffering is going to come the goodness. For example, just to bring it out a little bit more. Let's say I know a guy got divorced. Person got divorced. He went through suffering. 20 years later, you ask this guy right now, do you regret going through that suffering? And then he already got married to a new wife. He has a whole kids, family, everything. Are you going to tell him, is he going to regret the suffering? What's he going to tell you? The best thing that happened in my life was I got divorced from that woman. That's the best thing. Hashem is going to show that every single one of the sufferings that we go through is really going to be good. And in the future, we're going to say, that is the goodness. That was the best thing that could have happened in my life. Hashem is going to take the word Sarah. You just got to flip it around. You don't see it. But really, it's just all hidden. It's really a ritzeh. The second phrase, mitoch afela ora, from the darkness comes the light. Shemilat afela titapech v'tiyeh hapela. The word darkness, afela, if you switch around the letters, you get miracle. You get wondrous miracles.
Mafli.
What is that? Mafli, hafle, hapele. What does this mean? That when a person's in darkness, when the Jewish nation's in darkness, Hashem is not going to redeem you. He's not going to just, turn on the lights. Let's say you're in light now. No. He's going to make that light come in with such nisim v'niflaot, miracles and wonders. He's going to split the sea. He's going to bring down 10 makot. He's going to make 13 Jews defeat the army of the Yavanim. They were the greatest army. A small amount, a little band of Jews destroyed the whole entire empire of Greece. It's crazy. But he's going to bring about the light from the darkness in a miraculous way. Because he's going to take the word apela, which means darkness, he's going to flip it for hapele. Hapele means wondrous miracles. And the last thing we said was mitoch nibulan shel tzadikim romemutan. It means from within the disgrace, when a tzaddik is disgraced, that brings about his lofty levels. Meaning that tzaddikim, they also make mistakes. You can't just say a guy, he's tzaddik, so how do you sin? It's not the way it works. Tzaddikim make mistakes. So when a tzaddik sins, what does he have to go through? He has to go through suffering. Hashem says, I'm going to disgrace you right now. I'm going to punish you a little bit, which is coming from the word nibul. Nibul means to disgrace. If you rearrange the words nibul, you get libun. Libun means cleansing. Hashem said, through your disgrace, I'm going to cleanse you. You're going to become clean of sin, and you're going to reach the levels of becoming a tzaddik gamur. You're going to reach your highest levels. So this Chanukah, Be'ezrat Hashem, may we all realize that all the sufferings we're going through, the pain, it's not really suffering. It's just the darkness covering it. There's a darkness around it. We can't see it. But that's why we have Chanukah. Chanukah is, the holiday of the Orah, of the light. We're going to see the light within everything, and we're able to realize that everything is coming from Hashem. Mitoch afela ora. From within the darkness will come about our light. Baruch Adonai L'olam. Amen. Amen.